Good afternoon, everyone. When we're ready to start, just going to quickly give a little bit of background of who I am and where I work. I work at Google. I've been in Google 11 years, building one of their partnership ecosystem, and now building or growing the team that distributes Gemini, our AI agent, across the world. Now, the topic of AI agents, or actually AI, has been around for a while. And for a long time, we've treated it as we've treated with other sort of technology, which is a hype. But I'm here today to tell you and to demonstrate that it's not a hype. It's a real thing, and it's progressing sort of very fast. And when I was given the title of the rise of AI agents, the way to think of it, many people think of different sort of words when they hear the rise of AI agents, and some of them from job displacement, efficiency, automation, innovation, and all these kinds of words. And you could roughly categorize them into two specific outcomes, a dystopian outcome and a utopian outcome, and we're going to touch both of those. But just the mere fact that this technology or this invention conjures up these images of dystopian, utopian, just tells you how significant this is. Previous inventions, previous revolutions didn't really come up with a dystopian or utopian outcome, and that's why it's really important to really get ahead of what this actually means. So from a utopian perspective, what this means is basically the AI or the agents do the heavy lifting. Everything is improved, productivity goes through the roof, and basically it brings up the golden age of humanity. Everybody is able to pursue their own sort of dream, while AI takes care of the rest. The dystopian perspective, there's not much to say, because as humans and as we've grown, we focus always on fear and taking sure that we survive, and that's why there's a lot of movies and stories and books about a dystopian outcome of that. And it's not just a matter of rise of the machine, them becoming sentient and deciding to destroy all of us. It's also the fact that, like any other technology, it could be abused by rogue sort of players. And that's sort of the challenges that we need to face. Now, those are things that are not sort of theoretical, because they're already sort of being played out. On the right-hand side, you see, on the left-hand side, I'm sorry, you could see already companies providing access to these agents. So every company can build agents, create agents, and improve sort of productivity. On the right-hand side, this was taken a few weeks ago in San Francisco in a bus stop. Some companies are actually saying hire agents instead of humans. You've recently seen also OpenAI offering PhD agents for $20,000 a month, and so on and so forth. So it is an interesting position that we're in. So just like the rise of AI agent could also mean the rise of the generalist. Since AI has the ability to go drill down much deeper than any sort of human, then maybe the strength of the human is to orchestrate everything. So maybe it means the rise of the generalist, maybe the fall of the corporation. The generative AI could be the ones that the great equalizer. So a small company or a few solopreneurs with agents could deliver much more in terms of productivity and outcome than a large bloated organizations, and so on and so forth. And we're seeing this really play out. So first, the two examples I wanted to give is code and content. So from a code perspective, you see Google, you see Facebook, and you see Microsoft. More than 30% of the code is being written by AI, and according to Zuck, in 2 years' time, it will be the vast majority of it. Now, even before that, when I work with coders, a lot of the work that they do is they search the internet, they find on GitHub, and they copy-paste in many cases. But this is now moving sort of much better, and it again demonstrates the fact that the specialization of an AI, because if an AI is the technology, then obviously it will be better in writing technology as well. This graph that shows content creation is something that I've presented a few years ago. It has 4 stages of content creation, and I couldn't have imagined that we would reach the 4th stage, which is AI-generated content, so fast. We're already there, and you can understand how significant that is and how it challenges us as humans to absorb all this information. 2 recent examples that have happened, and you can take them from a dystopian, utopian perspective. But on the left-hand side, you heard Mark Zuckerberg, a big vision of creating AI friends. You don't really need real friends. You could have an AI friends, and to cure the pandemic of loneliness. I don't know what you think about that. And on the right-hand side, this is real. This is not a joke. This is someone who's decided to marry her AI boyfriend via a hologram, and they actually live together. It's crazy, but it is sort of happening. And the one thing to remember, we think about it as a joke, But humans, we're susceptible very much to sort of emotional manipulation. And these algorithms are very good at that. We know that when we go online and we're able to buy more stuff, but also capturing our emotion is really possible with an algorithm as well. This guy is Jeff Hinton. He's considered to be the godfather of AI, a former Googler, recently sort of left. And his idea as a computer scientist to think about how to build artificial intelligence is to try and replicate the only intelligence that we know is available in the universe, and that's the human brain. And as a result, I think I wanted to baseline everybody on intelligence. And what do we mean by that? And what are the different intelligence that we have today? So on the left-hand side, we have our biological intelligence. That's our brain, basically. And it came from sort of evolutions over thousands of years. On the right-hand side is the artificial intelligence, obviously based on technology by humans as well. And there's multiple ways that we can sort of compare and contrast between the two. But in short, our biological brain or our intelligence is very much general. So I can speak with you right now, I can move around, I can have different sort of thoughts. So it's very much general, complex. AI, when it started, it was very much narrow. Specific task that it does very well, and nothing else aside from that. In terms of our learnings, we have the reward pathway. You probably heard about the dopamine neurotransmitters that gives us the motivation to do what we do. From a machine learning perspective, it's more mathematical. It's reinforced learnings to ensure we create these artificial neural network, which really is the baseline of the intelligence. That's how any human or any mammalian or any sort of creature in the world has a biological neural network. That's how memories are being stored, intelligence, and all the information is being gathered. So let's, again, focus more a little bit about this. So this is a neuron. As in our brain, we have around 86 billion to 100 billion, depending on which research study you look at. But a neuron in itself is useless. It doesn't do much. It's only through its connection to other neurons that we really build that intelligence. And each neuron can connect to about 20,000 other neurons. So if you think about it, in the brain, you've got trillions of connections that are firing sort of daily. There's always this famous myth that says that we only use 10% of the brain. That's complete myth. The reason for that myth is that the brain has two main cells. One of them is the neurons that I explained, and the other is glia cells, which are the structure, the support, and nurture, in a way, those neurons. There's 90% of the brain is glia cells, 10% are neurons, and that's where the 10% comes from. But it is a myth. This guy is not someone you know. This is a description of Neanderthal. And contrary to common belief, Neanderthals were actually smarter than Homo sapiens. They had a bigger brain, and they could do more. However, they couldn't connect to one another. The lack of connection, collaboration, and communication was what eventually brought their downfall, and the fact that the Homo sapiens is the only single living species of humans that survived. So if we take the analogy on the bottom right, Neanderthals were a supercomputer, Homo sapiens a simple PC, but with Wi-Fi. And we'll see why connections is critical nowadays. So we've had the agricultural revolution, we had the industrial, we had the information revolution, and now we're pretty much in the intelligence revolution. And many people sometimes think about it and say that this is actually going to be the last human invention. And again, you can take it from a utopian perspective, that AI is going to take care of everything, and we're going to focus on what we want to do, or obviously from a dystopian perspective. But it is that significant, and it's not just me saying that, it's people much greater than me. In terms of the technology itself, and this demonstrates also the potential of AI, because sometimes as humans, we get in our own way. So the technology has been around for a while, and the first person that actually came up with neural network was all the way back in the 60s. Now, the reason that it took so long until it finally came into materialization is what's referred to as the AI winter. And the AI winter was partially as a result of political battle between two people. On the left-hand side, we had sort of Frank Rosenblatt, who came up with neural network. And on the right-hand side, we had Minsky, who actually thought that machines should be told what to do, whereas Rosenblatt thought that they should learn what to do. That's where the neural network comes in. Ultimately, Minsky won that debate, and the AI wars led to that long winter. Obviously, the fact that we didn't have the same level of compute and storage and data contributed as well. But that just gives you an example of how humans sometimes get in the way, because obviously there's politics, there's ego, there's other stuff, and AI can remove potentially all of that. So now we're very much on the AI continuum, very much a fast lane path. And I'm just going to take you through where we were and where we are right now. So we started off very much with artificial intelligence. We're moving now into generative AI. So initially it was narrow automation. Now it's automation and generation. Now agentic AI, which is automation, creation, and orchestration. And then we're moving into the holy grail of artificial intelligence, which is artificial general intelligence. That's what Google DeepMind's vision is all about. And the idea is to create human-level intelligence. So being able to master multiple skills at the same time. But that's not where it ends. And that's where a lot of the fear and the concern comes in, because there's something that we considered super intelligence. And that means not human-level intelligence, something much greater than that. So much greater that the human brain cannot even comprehend what that technology is. And now I'll bring another sort of quote from Jeff Hinton, which says, humanity is just a passing phase for evolutionary intelligence. Meaning, yes, we're now the smartest thing around, but potentially there's going to be something smarter, and we're just part of that evolution. I don't know what to think about that, but it is what it is. It's a quote. And we're seeing that sort of happening as well. So we have sort of AI creating sort of paintings. We have sort of AI creating movies, maybe completely disrupting the Hollywood industry. Who needs actors anymore if you can create these movies that can capture the attention and audience just as well, including podcasts and whatnot. The one thing that humans tend to say, okay, that's always going to be our secret sauce, is creativity. And I actually want to challenge that. And I'm going to challenge that through the game of Go. And I don't know how much you're familiar with that. But a game of Go, much more sophisticated than chess. It's been played for thousands of years. It has so many more moves, possibilities than chess. Then obviously they're saying that intuition plays a big part of that. And intuition is also considered to be very much a human phenomenon. So Google DeepMind created an algorithm just like in the past they did with, not they did, but IBM did with Garry Kasparov and chess, and decided to take on the world champion of Go in Seoul. The matches were broadcasted, and there was one instance, it was called Move 37, that the algorithm did, which caught everyone by surprise because it was very unorthodox, and actually that's what led initially for the win. But I wanted to show a video of when the live commentators saw that move, how surprising it was for them. So let's just hear that.
Surprising move.
I thought it was a mistake.
Well, I thought it was a quick miss, but
A clicko. And if we were online Go, we'd call it a clicko.
Yeah, it's a very strange. Something like this would be a more normal move.
So again, very surprising and very unique. But that's what creativity could be, right? Because creativity is looking at those patterns. And maybe something that has eluded humans for thousands of years is a pattern that the machine has looked and now can solve it. The same approach can be taken to almost every sort of industry. And that's why this technology, unlike many other technologies before it, is really industry agnostic and can sort of disrupt anything, obviously, for the better. And this is not just another example of autonomous cars, something that we've done back in Mountain View. Maybe some of you have seen sort of this video of why this flexibility or plasticity, just like we have in the brain, is important, and not everything can be hard-coded into these machines.
And so just a couple of months ago, our vehicles were driving through Mountain View, and this is what we encountered. This is a woman in an electric wheelchair chasing a duck in circles on the road.
You can't really code for that. So let's really understand this impact and how we can prepare for it from different sort of pillars. So I'm going to take it from the technology, people, business, organization, society perspective. Usually I give those talks to organizations going through digital transformation. But in this case, I'm going to touch on a few examples just to illustrate what this means from an AI perspective. So abstraction is the key word over here, because AI, the idea of it is to abstract the entire sort of tech stack. So we could just communicate with a single interface. And let's take the cloud example. In the past, if we take on the left-hand side, every sort of company had their own sort of servers and cables and everything. We need to take care of everything. And then the cloud came, virtual machines. So they took some of that away, and the companies stayed and focused on what they do best, whatever their industry there is. And then we're moving to the position where infrastructure, platform, and software as a service is all managed by a hyperscaler, and we focus on our own sort of core competence. Now, if we take that into the future from an AI perspective, then we're pretty much in the cloud stack already. Where we're going is that AI, as a technology stack in itself, is going to take care of all of that anyway. And the future is the full technology stack is going to be taken by AI. The other thing is interoperability, which is critical. And there's a few examples. Recently, I had a talk with Samsung on their device, because right now when we use our phone, we move from one application to the other. At some point, we're going to have one way to communicate across multiple applications at the same time. No more back and forth, a single interface that talks with all of them. We've seen that in healthcare, whether it's physical health or so on and so forth. All that information is being shared and communicated, so we'll get the solution straight away. And I think one thing that you sometimes hear with AI is multimodality. What that actually means is that the algorithm or the AI can communicate just like us as humans, not just in terms of text, but also in images, in videos, and in audio as well, and they communicate back and forth in the same way. That's what multimodality actually means, and this is just a quick joke or example of how that may work.
Thanks for calling Leonardo Hotel. How can I help you today?
Hi there. I'm an AI agent calling on behalf of Boris Starkov. He's looking for a hotel for his wedding. Is your hotel available for weddings?
Oh, hello there. I'm actually an AI assistant too. What a pleasant surprise. Before we continue, would you like to switch to Gibber link mode for more efficient communication?
Now, obviously, this is a joke, but you can understand how in the future the communication is going to be straight away, right? They don't need that sort of back and forth, and that's going to be a lot of the heavy lifting taken away from humans. In terms of, again, us humans, what does it mean to stay relevant? Obviously, we need to be able to work with AI. Just using some of those tools change a little bit how you think and how you sort of change the culture as well. As leaders and team members, we need to be able to work with that sort of uncertainty and also understand that what was the motivation, the needs back then are different now, and they're now sort of changing even faster as well. From a business perspective, obviously, everybody wants to avoid what we call the Kodak moment. As we move and years go by, some people don't even know what Kodak was, right? Our kids don't know what a tape recorder is and a VHS player. These are things of the past. You see that in museum. That's when you're starting to figure out that you're getting old, when the stuff that you played as a child sits in a museum. But it's important, right? Because you can never be sort of too confident and comfortable in your position. Now, this is an interesting part as well, and I've mentioned that as I started on, what I call the rise of the generalist. Because nowadays, especially with the AI, it has the ability to go deeper into any sort of function much more than anyone else. So the importance of the strength that any sort of function may have is its ability to work with AI and data and come up with the insights and action as a result of it. So that's why whether you're in engineering, operation, product, or marketing, you need to, in order to be really good at any of them, you need to know exactly what's happening around them. That's the orchestration part that, again, AI hasn't really mastered yet, and that's really more than even creativity, I think, is the benefit of the humans. Now, it's not just the functions in the workplace that are being consolidated. What we're seeing also, the great scientific consolidation. What I mean by that is, if you think about biology, chemistry, physics, all these have been artificially made by humans. All these natural sciences, I mean, they're out there, but we artificially broken down to pieces of information that our human brain can absorb. We can't absorb it in its entirety. But what we're seeing is that all the AI is merging all of them together. So it's breaking down those artificial barriers, and all of a sudden you have cross-pollination of ideas between them that you've never had before. Because again, it's industry agnostic, but it's also science agnostic. But more important than that, and that's the exciting thing, we may be sort of ushering in sort of new sciences, things that we never thought of possible before. There was a recent article that I read that they said, you know, you have about 1 million PhDs or whatever in the world focusing on a specific problem, whether it's cancer or maybe something else. But what happens if you put 100 times that amount? Research, look for patterns. Just like with the game of Go, maybe we can get into an answer or a solution sort of much faster. So it is interesting as well what sort of new science would come out as a result. So all of this is coming to the companies, it's hitting companies, small and large, and they're trying to figure out how to kind of stay relevant and change as well. And there's a few other things that I wanted to chat about. First, hybrid work. In the past, we thought about hybrid work. Even today, you know, the location. We work from the office and work from home. Nowadays, hybrid work also may include sort of us working with agents and leveraging that, utilizing this tool that is readily available. We could have sort of truth tellers, something that I suggested to my executives that they didn't really like. We have all these meetings, and sometimes who knows you know, what the truth is. Let's get that truth teller AI in the meeting that doesn't want a bigger title, doesn't want a bigger paycheck, doesn't care about sort of the times off or sick day. Tell us exactly what the path is in the future. And sometimes when I feed those AIs a strategy for the company, sometimes it's much better than we, you know, with our own arguments can come up with. So it's an interesting thing to think about. And as I mentioned before, innovations in the past in companies such as Google, Microsoft, and elsewhere has been sort of the sole issue for product and engineering. So the sales team, you sell the product, you give us the feedback, product and engineering come with innovation. I don't think that's the case anymore. Especially with AI taking more about the code, it's everybody's role to come up with those ideas and come up with that innovation, because ultimately materializing that is becoming much easier than before. Not easy, but easier. And in a way, that's the issue that for any company that has digital transformation is, how do you sort of combine the innovation with cooperation, the need for business as usual and predictability? And if you think about all those issues that are stopping that innovation, a lot of them are human sort of led. Just like with the natural sciences, it's hard for us to deal with that disruption in that level of pace. And that's where I think AI can assist with. So from a society perspective, it is interesting, right? I mean, it can go both ways. I think it was an interview yesterday with Elon Musk, and they asked him, what are the chances of this going horribly wrong and the AI would destroy us? And he said he started off with 20%, but then he lowered it to 10%. So we've got 90% of surviving, which is already good. But then she asked him for a timeline, and it says between 5 to 10 years. So it's not a hype, right? It's now. It's within our lifetime and pretty short. I'm more the optimistic type, but there's definitely advantage of it. And since I've quoted Geoffrey Hinton on 2 occasions before, this is his last quote. You can say maybe it's more of a dystopian side, but there are very few examples of a more intelligent thing being controlled by a less intelligent thing. So right now, we humans are the most intelligent thing in Earth, and we manage all the rest. Some would argue better, some argue worse. But once that we get into super intelligence, the question is, how would they sort of treat us? But that's for us to see. And that's basically it. So thank you very much for listening.